Ja, guten Abend, Damen und Herren, und eine ganz besondere Sendung heute Abend hier in der Am0k, Alex und Frank Stoner Show auf Radio Emergency. Und es ist eine unglaubliche Ehre für uns beide und natürlich für auch mal die gesamte Radio Emergency Community, dass wir eine ganz besondere Gast heute Abend haben hier live bei uns im Show. Und die Rede ist von die einzige und alleinstehende, natürlich mehrere Jahre, über 30 Jahre schon mittlerweile dabei, Mr. Ole Dammegard. And Ole, wonderful good evening, and thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us in our show. And welcome to Radio Emergency in the Am0k, Alex and Frank Stoner Show.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a real pleasure and honor to be invited.
Well, the honor is just on our side. I mean, you're a long-term researcher on political assassinations, international criminal networks. You run the webpage conspiracies.com, which is really recommendable. And you're the author of the outstanding book Coup d'etat in slow motion. So really, it's I mean, we talk about in our show a lot about this stuff, and it's the honor is on our side to have a researcher of your caliber in our show. Yeah,
absolutely. Ole, one of the last YouTube videos that I saw from your presentations that you had, I think it's a couple of years ago. You were working as a journalist over 30 years. Now it's got to be, I think, 35, 40 years at least. Ole, tell us about that a little bit.
No, I used to work as a journalist, but that was only for like 5 years or something like that, and as in quite a small town in southern Sweden. And but these years taught me how to ask questions, how to listen, not to interrupt, how to hear what is being said and what is not being said, because very often it's you will find the truth in what is not being said, what is left out, and so on. And also to see that we're being fed a lot of propaganda, even on a low level, you know, on a town town hall level, but all the way up to state levels, and now on a global level. So they were very good years for me when it came to what I was going to do later on, but which I had no idea about that time. I mean, 30 years ago, I had no plan to end up in this position at all. It's just that I hate being lied to. I hate people dominating others. I hate people manipulating. Normally, I'm not into hate at all, but these things I hate. I hate lies. And I love the truth. I love it. I absolutely adore the truth, because the truth is so simple and so beautiful, and it makes sense, even though it can be very, very hard to find it sometimes. It's there. And so these things, I don't know what took me into these areas, but it was like when I looked in my bookshelves many years ago, I was quite stunned, because either there were books about spirituality and life beyond death or reincarnation or all of these type of spiritual searching books, or they were about serial killers or top political assassinations or terrorism and so on. So it was like almost a little bizarre for me. It was very into black and white, just like a yin-yang mark,
yeah.
You know, that this is what is in this universe. I was looking at the extremes, and my choice was for the light. And the way to accomplish this light is by aiming it at the darkness. And so this is what I've been doing for many years.
You know, it's interesting, Ole, that you say that you worked as a journalist. The parallel for myself and hearing what you're explaining is sort of the same, because I was working in mainstream radio, and my problem was that I was always being put under pressure because I always had an opinion. And the mainstream radio didn't want that. And after I got thrown out of German radio, I started doing my own thing. And here with Frank, we found this direction. And I really don't know how it came about either to find. But according to some of your history that I've listened to and read about, it seems that your whole looking for the truth, which I have to also say I agree with, because when you get the truth, it's sort of you feel free when you find this information out. It's sort of a weight off your chest. But it seems that this whole research inspiration you got through the Kennedy assassination. Is that right? Or am I wrong?
No, that was where it started for me. Where really it was. I remember almost the hour when it happened, because that was the first time in the early 1980s where I was staying at a friend's and I couldn't sleep at night. He had satellite TV, and that was something really new at that time. So I was like, whoa, check it out. And there was this documentary about the JFK assassination where they showed the so-called Zapruder film, which is said to have been taken by a bystander, where you see the whole assassination of JFK. And in some of the frames you will see the final headshot, where it's very obvious for anyone with a logic working brain that the shot was fired from somewhere to the right and the front of him, not from the back and up to the right, where Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged assassin, is said to have been. And so like in 5 seconds it was super obvious for me that, whoa, hang on, that was a lie. I couldn't understand. These were some high-level news agencies, that were backing this whole thing. That was so obvious that, a 5-year-old that knows if you throw a ball at something, it will bounce in a certain direction. It's exactly the same thing. And this is where I felt that what I try to lead me is what I call Farmer Brown logic. 1 + 1 = 2. I don't care. I do not care if you can show in 3D animation, or you got like a whole team of professors in white coats and they say 1 + 1 = 34. That is just fantastic for me, because that shows me somebody is very aware that there's some massive lying going on, and there's a reason why they're trying to cover it up. So this is perfect for me. But the last thing I do is to accept that as truth. I'll just say, thank you, that's very kind of you to make it so obvious to me that you're lying. So I will track down and expose your butt. Because the thing for me, all of this is a matter of healing. That is the whole point for me. I'm not into this even though I find some conspiracies interesting, but the whole thing is about peace for me. Stop messing with us. Stop bullying us around. Stop killing us. Stop doing horrible things to our kids. What the hell is going on? And the rest of us being totally brain dead and asleep, accepting it. That, to me, not okay. So I will do everything to expose them. And the thing is, what is wonderful with all of this is also that I don't know if there's any kind of criminality that can go on in the open. It's only in the dark that they can do it. It's only in the shadows behind closed doors, real cowards. These people or forces that are involved with this, really, it sucks to such an extent that it's unreal. And so what I try to lead is courage to have the courage to face these forces, because they're very scary sometimes. And especially someone like myself, they see me if I do my part right, I hope I would be a major problem for them. So but to not let them dominate me by fear, because fear is the thing that they use against all of us to control us. To stay in love and totally fearless, just aim the light at them and say, I see you, and I don't care if you're Hindi, Sikh, Jew, Nazi, Christian, Catholic, blue, green, red, I don't care. I am aiming at criminals. I am exposing criminals. And so whatever area it takes me into, the truth will lead the way. I'm not here to make a point or a political standpoint. I don't care about politics at all. I'm here to do my part in creating peace in this beautiful world. And the thing is, when you look at it, when you look at how many of the things today that is going on, how much of this mayhem that is going on, and you see that it comes back to the same people, the same power structure. It doesn't matter if you go from the GMO or vaccines or chemtrails or political assassination or satanic rituals, or you come back to the same, which is fantastic, I think, because then it's like I don't have to worry about having millions of horrific individuals out there trying to do awful things to us. It's a small little tiny group like a cancer growth that is messing us up and trying to divert our attention all the time, trying to keep us fearful so that we will not have the courage and the time to open our eyes and just focus it at where the problem is, which is them. And so I think we're at a fantastic point in history because suddenly we know who they are. I mean, it's all over the place. We've identified so many of them. One of the things that I focus on is trying to expose the few methods they have, because the methods they're using against us are so few. So few, and they have absolutely no creative mind or skills or imagination when it comes to sort of maybe alter the theme from time to time or spice it up with a little like that. No, it's the same old, making it so easy for us if we become aware. So I'm super optimistic.
It's so great to hear your encouraging words, and I guess we have a similar attitude towards this entire stuff. We're talking about healing. We're talking about getting rid of all these calamities, which are not just some divine stuff, but it's human beings. It's human beings, and we are also regular people or common people. And we can heal because all this stuff it's not coming from some semi-gods or from some aliens. It's people, it's human beings, and it's only a few of them. And we can make this world a better place. I mean, just this optimistic view is really very, very great to hear and encouraging, because a lot of people in these days they wonder, wow, how can you look at all this dark stuff? I mean, isn't that influencing your mind? Maybe you even make it bigger if you look at it. But we are like you. We say, no, we just follow the truth. Truth is the frequency. Truth is the power. And we look at these things same way that a healer does. If your body is sick, you also have to look at the sick parts. You're not saying, oh, no, this doesn't look nice. I mean, you have to look at it. It doesn't smell nice. But you want to heal it, you have to face it. And this is just so great to hear your words and the attitude that you go towards it, that you don't become cynical, but you're a man of love and peace, and that you bring together these like you said, the spiritual perspective and the criminal perspective. Like when you started out, these things were separated in your books, but we have to bring this together, and it's a healing in a spiritual way as well as a healing in a worldly way, ain't it?
I would like to add a couple of words to what you said, Ole, because actually, while you were explaining all of this, about your attitude and how you go about researching these things and what your goal is, it opened up my heart, because I just got back from the United States, and there was a lot of bad things that I noticed. Maybe it's because working in the alternative media, I have a different perspective now for things that I'm looking for. But what I have noticed, Ole, and I'm sure maybe you can say something to this through your lectures that you hold and meetings that you have with people. Do you have the same impression that that it doesn't, as you mentioned before, it doesn't matter what creed, what color you are? I have noticed that there's groups of people like us, and we're searching for each other, and we're trying to get into contact and come together. And I think that this is, as you mentioned, a very important time in our life right now, where these people are searching for each other. They're going to find a way, whether it be through the communication that we are offering them, to come together. And we're going. I see a mass of these. How do you say? Awakened people coming together, and they're the ones that are going to somehow influence a difference in what's happening today. How do you see this? What's your perspective on that, sir?
I feel that according to native Indians, we, the souls that are here now, are the strongest of the strong. We have been fighting each other almost to get down here at this point in time in evolution. If you believe in these things, I don't know, but I have big respect for these tribes. And what they say is that we have been selected by our ancestors. We have volunteered to come down here at this point, because this is a very, very important time and extremely intense in so many ways, but not a time for wimps. We have come down here to excel and to become, to live by example, to become light lovers. I don't want to say warriors, because I don't believe in fighting, even though indirectly this is what we're doing. But it's like, I'm not a freedom fighter, I'm a freedom lover.
Yeah.
So I also feel that it's like so many of us have been tried in combat. You know, this can be spiritual combat in our families, in our lives, but we have been tried and proved ourselves in so many different directions. And now it's like coming to a point where we're being pulled together in a beautiful way. I mean, when I go to, I just came back from London, I did a mini tour there. I'm just, you know, I know there are people waiting there that I'm going to love. I'm really, you know, I can see it, and I just look out in the crowd, I see their eyes, and boom, there's one. And there's another one over there. And from that on, boom, we're brothers. I mean, really, brothers, because I know this is someone who has gone through this whole thing, purified himself, purified his mind, transcended above hatred, anger, all of these things, even though the background and history have been brutal to most of us. But this is what I call boot camp. The thing that we're have gone through in our life, I call boot camp. You have the choice to be a victim, or you have the choice to see it. Thanks a million. This was absolutely horrible, but I have really practiced my spiritual muscles and my physical muscles so that I am now in a position where I can meet this in balance. Because their incoming waves, I mean, they are big. So it's like you need to be able to surf. And it's not a time to chicken out. Also, as soon as you get afraid, you get stiff and you fall. You know, so you have to be able to move forward smoothly, not stupid, because you are in dangerous areas. I mean, I feel often I'm walking in a minefield where I need to move forward with tenderness, you know, not just bum, 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 bum. I'm going to prove that you're wrong and I'm right. That is a major problem. So you need to move forward, gentle but fearless.
Ole, this is so interesting that you mentioned these Indian tribes. I'm going to ask you, I'm sure you know about the information about what's going on at the Dakota Access Pipeline. They're in the United States, these protectors of water and their property and their sacred burial areas. It's why I want to mention this is that this historic happening with all the Indian tribes that got together and they said, what happened in the past, we're putting that we're going to call peace to that, and we're all going to stand side by side, where they actually had people coming out of the Amazons, Indios as the Amazons, South America, that all came to South Dakota to stand with this tribe together with these people to protect their treaties and things that were made. And if this sign that all these Indian tribes that made peace with one another is possible. Isn't that a sign for us to show that it's possible that all the different cultures can do that with one another?
Yeah, big time. Big time. It's all coming together on so many different levels. Indian tribes, us, Muslim, Christians, and the people behind the so-called New World Order, they're freaking out. That's why they really try to hammer us with all of this propaganda, divide and conquer. It's the Muslims, it's the whatever, it's the blacks, it's the whites, it's the refugees, it's the all of these things. It's divide and conquer. It's one of the few methods they have against us. So whatever they try and throw at us, you can see the key in all of it is fear. They want us fearful. They want us to fear each other. That's the whole thing. So I say, if that is how you try to control me, I'm going to go the exact opposite way. I'm going to love. You say I should fear this person, I'm going to go straight to that person and see, are you really fearful? Is there a reason for me to hate you? And I tell you, I have been welcomed in such weird areas that you cannot even believe it. This week, just a week ago, I was invited to a conference or some kind of thing in London. It was very secretive, you know. Just 2 hours before the event took place, we were told where it was. I didn't know who the group was, because I will go and talk to anyone at any place at any time. You know, if they don't censor me, I'll be happy to go into whatever, you know. So I came there, and these words are easy to say, but once you're in a situation where you suddenly look into the crowd and like, holy shit, what is this? And that was my impression. It was mostly men, elder men, you know, and they were like National Front flags. There was the EDL flags. There were skinheads. There were many of these people looked like, if you wanted casting for a Second World War movie, my God, they would just fit perfectly. And I was standing there with banners on both sides of National Front and this thing. So I thought, okay, here you are. You say that you're willing to go anywhere, so let's prove it. So anyway, while I was preparing, because had I known it, maybe I would have chickened out. Maybe I would have felt this is not very clever, you know. But thank God I did not know about who it was. And so while I was preparing, on the outside of the hotel, we started hearing, whoa, 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 whoa. We looked out, there was about 50 to 100 people in black masks and all dressed in black with black flags and smoke bombs. So police arrived and there were helicopters outside. I was just like, this is just amazing. How bizarre is this? Anyway, so I thought, I looked over, it was my time to speak, and I thought this crowd will not enjoy foreigners, that is for sure. I can see that, I can get that feeling. And I'm sure they won't like refugees, I'm sure they're not going to like colors and so on. So what I started talking about was my journey, and where one time many years ago I took an old bicycle and I left Sweden, just going out into the world on my own, just trying to understand what was going on. And so I took this old bicycle, left Sweden, and I was aiming for South Africa, but instead I ended up in the middle of the war between Iraq and Iran, and this was in '84, which was, at that point I thought that Iran was filled with people, fundamentalist, extremists running around screaming Allah Akbar, shooting each other, praying all the time. That was what I thought. So how I ended up there, it's very strange, but I felt this in my heart, go, 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 even though the borders were closed. Anyway, so I managed to get in there, and instead of finding these awful people, religious fanatics, I found extremely beautiful people, but in a very, very difficult situation. I mean, they threw bombs at them on a daily basis. Almost Tehran was being bombed. There were roadblocks everywhere, police, revolutionary guards that just pulled people off the buses, threw them on trucks and took off. Mass executions. I mean, scary, scary. But the people that that took me in, sort of, I really came to love very, very quickly. And since the borders were closed and most embassies had sent out their personnel and so on, there were no Westerners at all. So they saw me as a possibility to get information out to the world about what's going on, which was incredible for me, because then they drove me everywhere, and pointing out, there's the old SAVAK, the old secret police officers are there now. It's taken over by their committee over there, the different control organs. There's a secret agent over there, the guy over there. The whole structure, the police, how they worked, everything, where the underground prisons were, and all of these things that you would never see if you just went straight through. You would just see, oh my God, they're mad, and just leave. And also, there were all of these frightened women in the street, with chador, with these, black things like a tent over their head, walking around looking bizarre to me. To me, it was the first time ever I saw these things. And then you come home to them, they lock the door, off with a chador, and boom, on with Michael Jackson. And just like have a normal party. It was like jeans and sweater. Everything was just like mind-blowing. It just like so hard to see that, my God, we're just the same. We're the same, same music, same feelings, same being in love, same being miserable, same, being frustrated with Monday to Tuesdays, Fridays, whatever. But in different circumstances. And they had made a massive mistake, because they managed to throw out the fourth strongest army in the world. The SAVAK and the Shah was one of the most powerful nations in the world, but very oppressive against his own people. They managed to do a revolution without weapons and threw him out. I mean, when you look at it, unreal, totally incredible. But what they did not do was check out who the so-called savior was, because he came in on stage more or less identical to Obama. It's the old problem, reaction, solution. A massive problem to get the emotions going for us so that we don't think, and in comes the solution. Where did Obama come? I mean, in from, on a rock star, on stage from absolute nowhere. Nobody had heard of him. And Khomeini was sort of a symbol, a gathering symbol to get all groups together. But nobody really checked him out. So he was just this, people saw his face in the moon and all of these type of things. And then he came as this fantastic savior from Paris. He had been in exile in Iraq for many years. Then he came and everybody was just dancing in the streets. All the resistance group came up in the open. Everybody was finally free to speak and do and be and so on. But what they did not know was that the secret police of the Shah, called the SAVAK, was given an option by the new government, Khomeini's guys. They said, okay guys, you want to work with us, you have an option, work with us or we'll chop your head off. So most people said, okay, I'll work for you. So can you blame them? No. So,
of course not.
So the first 6 months, what they did was that the whole future resistance network was being mapped, in all of these places where people were finally speaking openly after all of these years and dancing and showing who they really were, waving their flags. All of it was being photographed, mapped, and categorized. And then about 6 months later, over one night, there was mass arrest of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, including family members, friends, children, and so on. And overnight, just like with the Berlin Wall, boom, the jail door was locked, and nobody had even seen it coming.
Yeah, but Ole, what you're saying right there, this is the same scenario that we're having in the Ukraine. It's the same scenario that we're having in Syria, and that's exactly what you said before. It's always the same game that these people, they're not creative enough. but you see the same domino setup every time. I don't know. Am I being misled over there, or am I not seeing something? But it seems to me that way. I mean, from what you're saying,
it's very important not to jump to conclusion when things happen. But my God, so many things repeat themselves. That is why I find it so important to become aware of these patterns, so that we can even predict. You know, when you start seeing, okay, it's coming. If this is following the same template, then this will happen. And if we see that, then, my God, let's do everything we can to stop it before it's too late, because they want total control, and that is not a nice future for us if we let them do it to us.
Exactly, and that's one of these great contributions that you gave to the public, is that you showed how these patterns look like. You laid it open. I mean, you connected all these different assassinations, and you showed there's always the same pattern. There's always a story with the patsy. There's always a different narrative that you give out in the public. And the book that you wrote, coup d'etat in slow motion. So like in slow motion, we see it. You get this once, you will recognize this pattern again and again, and that's why it's so important. So please, Ole, I know it's a funny question when you're doing research for 30 years, but like in a nutshell, I mean, what is this pattern that is repeating itself again and again? When we talk about assassinations that you saw with Kennedy, that you saw with Palme, and so on.
First, just let me give 20 more seconds from that meeting in London, because these were very right-wing people, most of them. But I feel I don't judge people, because I feel everybody thinks they're right. So how can you judge somebody that do and believes in a certain way? That individual believes they're right. They do what they think is right. So I don't judge them. I do not agree with them many times, but my judgment, I take that away. Anyway, so I was looking out into this crowd with all of these powerful faces, and I normally finish with a prayer, and I just felt, oh my God, am I going to do it here too? And I said, yes, I'm going to do it here too. So I finished with a prayer, and it goes like this: may the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light. Anyway, afterwards, two people, one woman and a man in a very high quality business suit, came forward. Both of them hugging me, and both of them almost crying. Do you see? Because I come from the heart, and I before I give a speech or anything like that, before this interview, all kind of interviews, I say, please help me. Get my ego out of the way. I call for the help of all saints and sages, all the angels, my ancestors. Please support me in what is needed to be done. Give me the words. Let me use this body vessel I'm in to deliver a message of love, compassion, forgiveness, and transcend this whole thing, so that we can lift this beautiful world to the next level of fantastic harmony. Okay, so that is what I try to do at all times. And then the power, something, in my opinion, when you're inspired, in spiritus, as it says, body and spirit aligns, body and mind aligns, and spirit can enter. So I think everyone who's inspired, when they paint or write or whatever they do, will notice that it's almost like a phenomenon where time stops, and you've been trying to write some lyrics for 6 months, you can't do it, and then suddenly in 4.5 minutes, bam, 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 it's all coming down. And these things I don't take credit for when it happens to me. I'm just so grateful to be part of it, because I just feel download mode, something is being downloaded here, and I can just enjoy the ride. But it's when I get out of the way, the download is easier, and that is the thing, the heart connection that happens there. So what I love is this thing where people that have been so frightened and so angry and so frustrated for such a long time, and then you manage to bypass all of this armor and reach the heart. fantastic. For me, it's like, this is why people say, well, there's only 40 people here. I don't care if there's 4,000 or 2. If I can somehow reach one individual or 2, that is magic, absolute magic. This is, I have to say, I've done, I don't know how many interviews I've done, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I was sitting in my bathroom with a computer on the toilet, with a blanket over my head to avoid the echo, real undercover work, having no idea if there was anyone out there hearing or listening or anything, just like we are here. Is anyone going to hear this, or how is it going to affect them? I have absolutely no idea. The only thing I can do is focus on doing my part as good as possible. So, back to your question. What do you want, a terror attack or an assassination?
Oh, we have a choice here.
Yeah, they're very similar. They're quite similar, so I would say maybe a terror attack would be better.
Well, give it to us, Ole. Knock us out.
Okay, so the template for a terror attack will be, you have to understand that we're looking at not individual countries. Just because an attack happens in one country does not mean that it's not connected to other attacks. Because the power behind these people, the power behind these attacks are part of what is called the New World Order. They play this world as a chessboard. And countries that these things happen to are either connected to NATO or other security agreements and the US. You got Saudi and Mossad. Israel is very, very, very dominant in many of these. But I have from inside sources that it's not a matter of you got Mossad over there, you got MI6 there, you got CIA there, you got Boss over there. It's not like that. It's like that on the street level, but once you get up a bit higher up in the power hierarchy, they're all connected. So it's just a matter of how we're going to play this country, how we're going to play that, and so on. So, for instance, a terror attack. The reason for terror attacks are fear porn. We need you to bend over and say, thank you so much for screwing us from behind. We will do anything and lick your feet, including paying you to totally control us and manipulate us and do horrific stuff to us. How can the few in power do that to the masses? How can a few thousand control billions of people? They do not have a lot of options, and these are old Roman tools that they've been, I don't know if they've upgraded them, they made them digital, but it's the same old crap that they're using all the time. So it's divert and conquer or problem, reaction, solution. The few in power secretly create a problem. This will be in a so-called terror attack, virus scare, a mass invasion of refugees, or natural disaster, or something like that. Something that freaks you out. And the way they freak you out is they go emotional. So it will involve children and women. Women and children, these are the things. It does not matter with guys like us. If we get blown up or something like that together with a tractor and a cow, would not make the impact. But a daycare center or a hospital or invalids, depending on what is the theme of this terror attack. So they secretly create a problem to get the emotional reaction from us. The one they want is where we go totally emotional, do not use our brain and say, wait a second, before I react, I'm going to have a look at what actually happened. But they want us just to go like this. And then we, thinking that we're under attack, then turns towards the people that are there to protect us, not understanding that they are actually the ones who have created the problem. Saying, please, please save us, we need protection. And then they will say, well, since this problem is so big, the only way we can protect you is, and in comes the solution. And the solution is every single time something we would never ever have accepted had it not been for the problem. Problem, reaction, solution. It is super simple, and you will see it on a daily basis, so many different areas of life when it comes to how to control you. So, this means also that when something like this happens, and you go, then wait and see who will serve this solution, because they will be the people behind it. So the people that steps forward in nice suits and say, we will not bend down in the face of terror, our nation will stand united, and these are the killers. These are the ones that are doing it to us. This is the one. So it's perfect. You don't have to look for them, because they're right in your face. Problem, reaction, solution. And they are the ones that will make absolutely sure that there's a super investigation there that will find absolutely nothing. They will point at a patsy. Let's go back to the template. Okay, so let's say that there will be a terror attack. Give me a city where this terror attack should happen. Give me a country.
You mean right off the top of my head?
Yeah, give me a country.
Okay, Berlin. Yeah, Berlin.
Berlin, okay. Berlin is perfect. I mean, now you're going to think that I'm just going to copycat what just happened there, but the thing is, wherever it will happen in a very important strategic location. There will be some very symbolic building or something that has happened there. In Berlin, it was the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church. You know, that is the symbol of Berlin, the power of the people from Berlin. We can do it, but at the same time also this is what happens when you totally mess up everything. Then very close to that building as well, there will be some kind of Freemasonic symbol. In your case, is this horrific church that is, I don't know, built straight next to the Kaiser Wilhelm one. I mean, awful looking, totally Freemasonic. Modern type of obelisk thing, but there will be one kind of Freemasonic symbol, obelisk, pyramid, eternal flame very close to it. There will also most of the time be that there's some kind of graphic looking, if you look from Google Map from above, there will be a pyramid shape of streets where the attack will happen at the exact top of the pyramid, and that top is also where this building normally is located. Okay, so look out for these things. Why they do it, I don't know, but they are so into these things. And it will happen on a specific date, a symbolic date to get the emotions going. It will be Halloween, it will be Valentine's, it will be Veterans Day, it will be Homeland Security Day, these type of day. I don't know if there is such a day, but something, or a national day like in Nice, you know, the Bastille Day or something, to get the emotions going. It depends on what kind of theme they're trying to play, because they have different themes. I can go through them. So the date is important. Also, it will very often happen on a Friday night or Friday evening, because then once this terror attack happens, they will close down the stock market and say, oh, because we care so much for the families of the victims, we will close the stock market, and you will not be able to find that we have made a lot of illegal dealings before. You can see these stock options and stuff like that put in place where it starts accelerating right before it happens. Okay, and then they close the stock market, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday they open up again. They will have plenty of time to clean their tracks, and it will be so much harder for us to find out what actually happened. But you will see every single time things like this happen, somebody is making billions. Okay, so
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Ola. What I wanted to find out is that you're mentioning this obelisks and these particular dates. So numerology, indirectly, you're mentioning numerology there. Being that you're such a spiritual person, I just have to throw this question in to find out: how do you feel about this occult theory that everybody's talking about, that these elite people are following, whether it be satanic or Kabbalistic or Talmud type of beliefs? How do you feel about that? Does that actually really play such a big role in it?
I have no idea. I can just see this is what's being repeated. And the mentality behind it, I can say, is the exact opposite of the mentality of a normal person. whatever we want in the form of love and compassion and forgiveness and happiness in life, they want the exact opposite. I mean, I do not understand the mentality at all. But it's like nowadays, whatever they say, turn it upside down, and you will see the real thing. You know, whatever they call it, Operation Care and Tender Care or something like that. You know, like that is an army operation. Operation Tender Care, turn it around, Operation Rape and Slaughter. That would be the correct one. The White House, the Satanic House. The FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, no fraud, bribery, and intimidation. You know, CAA, Central Intelligence Agency, no, absolutely not. Cocaine Import Agency. And so, do you know, like, give it the correct names. You know, like Hillary, Hitlery, or Killery, that are more direct names. Name them, and it will be so much easier to understand what's going on. Also, when it goes into these satanic things and with children and stuff, it's awful, awful, awful. Because very often you have these organizations that care for children, but they are actually the ones that supply the children into these chains. Awful. But so look at the names of these different ones, and then turn it around and see if it makes sense. I'm not saying it's like that everywhere, absolutely not. But this is how they do it. This is how they play us. So let's get back to the template. If I answered your question, I can only say they use numerology a lot. They put all of these, I mean, many of these pyramids and obelisks, and these are massive things to create. So why do they put such an effort into it? I can't say for sure. I can just say they keep repeating. And I tell you, I was one of the key speakers at Dallas. At the JFK assassination conference in Dallas in November, and I was walking around Dealey Plaza looking, where is it? There is one old obelisk on Dealey Plaza, and Dealey Plaza was, it is exactly in a pyramid shape, the streets, if you haven't noticed, and there is an obelisk there, an old one, because this was where the first Freemasonic lodge was in Dallas in the 18th century, 1800s. But anyway, so I was walking there, and I thought they always wanted from the point of the pyramid shape of the streets. So that was exactly where the triple underpass is. You know, where the bridge where the motorcade went in under. So I walked over there, and I crossed the triple underpass, and I put myself in the exact position of the point of the top of the pyramid, if you looked at it from above, how the streets are. And at that exact point, when you look towards the school book depository, where it said that, and the Deltex building, where some of the shooters were located, where everybody said, oh, Oswald was up there, meaning anyone in that position will look exactly in that angle. If you look there, behind, there's a massive skyscraper, where the top of the skyscraper is a pyramid. You know, but you don't see the pyramid unless you stand exactly at that point, and then it's a perfect pyramid put on top of these buildings. I can send you photos of them. It's just like mind-blowing once you see it. Anyway, so it's a symbolic place. You will always find, like when this, for instance, the last Melbourne crap thing, where this car thing, where they were driving around doing donuts, and then said to a massacred people in the street. I can debunk that right away. I'll be most happy to do that. The car that he was doing donuts with had a tow witch. Do you know this hook where you can put a trailer? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And the car that was abandoned, all smashed up, where they pull out the driver, did not have one. So we're back to it's not even the same vehicle, thank you, and goodbye. So, anyway, so we got the location and the time is important. Then there will be a drill. There will be some kind of drill nearby, and the drill is there for your security, if you weren't aware of it. But what they will do with this drill is they will cut off shut off the streets. You will see different kind of vehicles there that you would notice otherwise. But since they have a security drill, I guess it's okay that they come in with all these weird kind of looking vehicles. There will be The reason for this drill will be to get crisis actors in position, lighting in position, cameras there, a possibility to rehearse a few times. There will be marketing agency involved as well, preparing logos and slogans for the media. And also there will be, get the vehicles in position. Also logistics as toilets, catering, these type of things. And people involved that are good with explosives, smoke bombs, and makeup facilities. These will be driven there often in the evening, so that people don't really notice. And should they ask questions, it's just a security drill. So the drill is one of the fantastic things for us, because as soon as we hear about a drill, that should make us go, wait, hang on. Here's a possibility for a security drill, a real one for our protection, or this is the first step of another alleged attack that will be used against us. So what I always suggest is when people hear about a drill, it would be very nicely put on a poster or in a radio commercial, like very smelling like a deodorant or something like that, so you won't even notice. But the thing is to go there the day before and while the drill is ongoing, bring your friends and family and film them. Make it very, very obvious that they are being filmed while they start to set the whole thing up. And there's especially one app called Bamboozle, I think there are several others, where you can go from just filming to straight live on YouTube, which is perfect if you get approached by some security guard, because they always have these, well, I call them bouncers, like buffalo type of looking guys, former militaries, these type of things that they're in jogging suits, but they're not. They're there to make sure that nobody enters or leaves the area, because they need to check the crisis actors as well. So they will approach you, or a police officer or something like that, you're not allowed to film here. Well, sorry, I am. And if they get aggressive, then just inform them before you even sort of consider hitting me in the head with something hard. Please notice that you're being filmed, and it's live on YouTube at this very moment. This has a very calming effect many times. And also this, by exposing them while they're in the process of just setting the whole thing up, can even make it defuse the whole operation. And I believe that I've been part of stopping several of these planned operations. Anyway, so it's not easy to explain this easily. There will be a patsy, a lone crazy guy. The reason why they want him alone is because then by law there's no conspiracy. And if this person is suicided or shot dead on sight, then case closed, thank you and goodbye. They don't even have to look into it because he was only one. And then the reason why they want him crazy or fanatic is because then there's no motive. He was crazy. He just went up and shot him for no apparent reason. What a bummer. And now bugger off and don't stop for wasting our time trying to look into this. That's the thing they do. So you will also see that after these operations, there will right away be a conference. The police chief will stand forward and say, "Oh my God, this horrible, horrible thing has happened, and now we are really going to look into it." Which they will then. The investigation will be put there to absolutely not find anything except pointing at the patsy, and become aware of people like myself with too big a nose that will just go looking into areas when we're not supposed to go. This investigation will also have cleanup teams that will take care of people like myself if we get too nosy. Not nice, not nice. And should this investigation, this investigation is controlled by key people. We're not talking about everyone involved at all. We're all the time talking about key people in key position that is very much connected to Freemasonic Brotherhood networks. So the chief of police or the judge or whoever it is, the DA and so on, will be connected behind the scenes in these Freemasonic networks. So they control them. And should people not give up and keep asking questions, then this investigation will be followed by a commission. This commission will be given some fancy name like the Freedom and Information Truth Act or something like that. And then they will spend about a year or so doing absolutely nothing except throwing darts, drinking brandy, smoking cigars, laughing at the rest of us, and then have people write thousands of documents saying zero, but pointing out a few critical points in the investigation, or they didn't do their job properly. But otherwise than that, everything is fine. So now we've done our job, thank you, and go back to sleep here. If we do not accept that, it will just be followed by another commission. And another. After the Olof Palme assassination in Sweden, there were 3, almost 4 commissions following each other, just boring us to tears with the whole intention of go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. So.
Wow.
Right. Now that we're on Olof Palme, and you were also talking about the patsy, the crazy guy, the loony one that is always to blame. You mentioned, because you researched this Palme case very, very deeply, and I guess there's nobody else that has gone that far. And one of these really freaking details that you mentioned there that are also interesting for the German-speaking audience, because we have also people from Austria listening, is this connection of a guy called Josef Fritzl with the Palme assassination. And just for the people who don't know Josef Fritzl, he's an Austrian, and a few years back he got arrested, and the case was that his own daughter, he kind of locked her down in the basement for 20 or something years, and forced his own daughter as his personal sex slave, and was raping her, and was even they even got more children and stuff like that. A horrible story. A regular looking guy in a small Austrian town, and now which it was a big case here in the German speaking world, and now you connected him to the assassination of Olof Palme back in the 80s in Sweden, the Swedish prime minister. Could you please lay this out on us, the connection there?
That one just blew my mind. I mean, I could not believe it when I found it. I just felt, oh my God, I wish I hadn't found it, because nobody's going to believe me. It's just so bizarre. But the whole Olof Palme assassination is, if you want to, we can do a separate show, but like a 2-3 hour show, and I can just go through step by step by step by step. The Olof Palme assassination is so multi-layered, so complex, so mind-blowing, I tell you, that I normally try to avoid it, except if I got like a whole day lecture. I'd be happy to come to Germany and do one. I've been to Belgium and England, and so I'm doing whole day lectures about this assassination. But part of the setup of the assassination of Olof Palme was to blame it on a patsy. And the investigation, just like with the other ones here, were involved in the murder itself. So it's through Hans Holmér, who was the first investigator. It was in his books that I came across this person for the first time, but he went under the name of Wilhelm Kram, the crazy Austrian Wilhelm Kram. And he was the one that was supposed to take the fall for this whole thing. But instead, the whole thing got messed up, and they tried, well, like I say, it's super complex, but the whole thing was that the idea was that this should be a clear and open shot case overnight. The whole thing was not supposed to take forever and ever and ever, which it has done. It was supposed to be do bang, and once again, thank you and goodbye, cruel world, and go home. And the guy who was supposed to take the fall was Josef Fritzl, who was in Stockholm that day. I don't think he was aware of that he was going to go down. He was just being told, be in this location. He was standing at Slussenplan, just about a kilometer south of where Olof Palme is said to have been shot, and was there to be picked up and then taken straight into the police station and accused for the murder. In 86, he already had his daughter for many, many years in his basement. As far as I know, also, Josef Fritzl was supplying the Mossad with different type of IDs and fake passports and so on. So he was somehow involved in criminal activities with these so-called intelligence services. So I don't know if they chose him because he looks like a perfect patsy. He looks weird. Because the thing is, you can't be cute and cuddly and then people say, well, this is the terrorist or this is the assassin. It needs to work in media, so you need to look like brutal or violent or something like that. And Josef Fritzl, he's got the looks. And also maybe because they had him, I'm sure they were very aware of this thing with his daughter in the basement and so on, so that they could keep him quiet, accepting whatever he was going through in court and so on, maybe with a promise, yeah, we're going to put you in for life, but not really. We're just going to tell people you're in jail, but you're not going to be there. You're going to be transported out, and which is what they do many times. They execute you, not really. They take you out the back door, and then they get you back into the operation world. And so I think maybe that was the reason why they chose him. But as far as I've been able to find out, that's the guy.
It's just so freaking that these things are connected, because I mean, it looks like separate things. The Palme and this doorway into or this rapist and sexual slave stuff, but it seems to be the same kind of people.
It's the same. It's the same, and the same, repeating itself in different variations. And please understand that these people are into violence. They sort out problems with violence. So if somebody gets in their way, they kill them, meaning assassinations. They have a brutal way of dealing with partners, killing them, meaning other murders and so on. They're very much into these bizarre sexual rituals. They're into drugs, into big money, and so on. So wherever you go into, you will bump into the same people again and again. And I know a friend of mine who's a former assassin, Chip Tatum, a CIA whistleblower. He says that the world of assassins and this whole world of criminality on that level is really small. You will see the same people there again and again and again and again. And this is what I keep saying. It's like the same. So every time something new happens, it's almost boring, because I'm just like, where are you? I know you're here somewhere in the background. And there, boom, there's one. And where's the other one? He is over, and here he comes. It's the same team. And I would humbly suggest that what we're looking at when it comes to terrorism is not one terror group in Sydney, and one in Melbourne, and one in Austria, and one in Canada, and one in Germany. It is just like a rock group, a Rocky Horror Show, a theater group on a global tour. The same people carrying it out, the exact same theme in different countries, with the same backup, the same logistics, everything is the same. So that is why I try to with facial recognition, spot if I can find the same people running around in the background in Sydney, as in Ottawa, as in Canada, as in Copenhagen, as in Berlin, and so on and so on. Because I tell you, same group. I believe that they're being transported from country to country in army planes. So they land on NATO bases, Air Force bases, American military bases, and so on. And then they're transported in buses to location, where they then carry out the same old theater play, where it's aimed at not to convince the people on location. It's aimed at the media, it's through media that they want to pump this out, this horrific image of porn, fear porn, and terror. So why do you think all of these SWAT teams are running around with balaclavas? Why do the police nowadays look exactly like terrorists looked in the old days? And I tell you, one of the things, I truly believe that this is true. You got, for instance, at the Bataclan shooting in Paris, you had the exact same description of the shooters, the few shooters that was really there, as in San Bernardino a few days later. The exact same description of the people shooting. Okay, they were said to be in dark military looking clothes, but without masks while they were shooting. Then came the SWAT team with military dark clothes, but with masks. Meaning, I think the shooters duck down, put on the mask, wait for the SWAT team. SWAT team comes in, 10 people, SWAT team leaves, 13 people. Do you see how to get the shooters in and out on location? They use it again and again. It's the same. And this is also why, like when somebody just happens to film one of these terror attacks, I love it, because like, what are the chances? Especially when they start filming before it even starts. That is just like, hang on. Why did you even pick up the camera before it happened? Normal people will like, bam, something happens, you pick up the camera, you take a photo. No, it's the other way around. So I always really look into who is filming. And just because it's shaky does not mean that it's authentic. Okay? And how come they managed to get it blurred with these HD mobile cameras? Everybody has got fantastic quality on their cameras nowadays, on their phones, but no, every time there's one of these things, it's blurry like an old VHS porn movie from the 70s. How the hell is that possible? It even has to be some kind of app they add or filter to mess it up like that. So, who filmed the Charlie Hebdo, for instance? Do you remember the one where the police officer were rolling around on the pavement? That guy, by the way, he's doing great. He lives in Buenos Aires. He's a Mossad agent. I tracked him down. He was paid $666,000. Very interesting number, I would say. And he was said to stay down there for about 6 to 7 years until everything has cooled down. A little plastic operation, and welcome back. So, these numbers. Do you know when the bomb in Boston, where that went off? Boylan Street 666. I kid you not.
That's so funny, because just to throw this in, we were talking about Trump on Wednesday, Donald Trump, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. It's just so funny. Frank brought the point up that he bought one of the actually the most expensive immobilia.
Yeah, it was the most expensive purchase of a building, of a single building in the United States history, for $1.8 billion a few years back. He bought in New York City the building called 666 Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, 666 Fifth Avenue,
right opposite of the Rockefeller Center, and it was just a crazy price, but because of some reason he had to get it. And now this guy is now the closest counsel advisor of Donald Trump. I mean,
absolutely.
And talking about Iran like we did before. I mean, this is
well, the other thing is that when you look at his the way he was brought up, under the Kabbalah, and Orthodox Jew. I'm not saying I'm not saying that to express any type of anti-Semitism or anything like that. But the thing is that you see the pattern that he comes from this Zionist type of background. Ola, out of your perspective, do you look into this Zionism and things like that? Because what's up? I would like to know your side on this perspective.
Voltaire said, to find out who controls you, see who you're not allowed to question. And you will see here that the Zionist involvement, the Jewish involvement in the whole part. I mean, I don't even know a Jew, so to be called a Jew hater, which I've been called several times, it's a bit strange to me, because I'm looking for criminals. But I can say the percentage when you look into these crimes is just skyrocketing, like unreal. So not to point at it would be a major mistake, I would say. And also, I know you are in a country where if you speak too critical about certain things, you can even be put away, which I find absolutely incredible. I don't want to go into it now just because of concern for you, but I feel like a researcher or historian, what else than look for the truth should be supported. And also, your country, when we come into the Holocaust, your country should have an incredible interest in finding out the real truth, because your country has been put such a heavy burden of guilt. So it should be in the interest of Germany to find out, okay, if there was something that didn't match up or the evidence or anything like that, then it would be an interest. But here instead, Germany puts people in prison, and I would say maybe because Germany is more or less an American army base, when you look at it from a control perspective. And I try to avoid the Holocaust, because that is the one. It's like putting a bazooka to your forehead if you want to go down in flames. But I have made, you can find on YouTube, it's a 2-hour interview on Red Eyes Creations called Making Critical Thinking Illegal. Making critical thinking illegal, because that is the thing that really bugs me, is that this is as if they cannot use anything else against you or in trying to stop the truth, boom, they will hit you with this one. And I've seen incredible things like I saw an interview on CNN where they were talking about Building 7, 9/11, the Building 7 that came down in the afternoon, just a small little fire, and then boom, controlled demolition just went straight down. And they were talking to this constructional engineer, and he said, well, it was controlled demolition. It's very obvious when you look at it. And they said, suddenly they attacked him of being a Holocaust denier. And I'm just like, we're talking about the structure, concrete, steel. How could it just go down like that? How could these massive big towers be dustified? And then suddenly they hit you with this one. And I saw there was an interview with a former, I don't know if she was a foreign minister of Israel or whatever. She spoke, I think, on Democracy Now! She spoke very openly about that. Yeah, it's standard. If you can't shut them up with anything, just bring in the hand grenade, boom, and that will shut them up. So this is why I think extremely important that we expose that one as well. And I've been to Berlin before. I touched these things because, boom, and you're behind bars just because you're asking questions. Not okay.
Yeah, talking about Germany and Austria as well. Here we have also quite a list of political assassinations in let's say the last decades. Political assassinations as well as terror attacks like the one on the Oktoberfest in the 80s. And it's quite a list of assassinations and also mysterious deaths like the cases of Möllermann or Haider. And now you say there's an international network operating. This is a global thing. And can we connect some of these cases with this network? And I guess the case with the most obvious international connection is the one of Uwe Barschel. And do you have any information how to connect these cases into these networks that you researched about?
I would suggest that when you look at many of these deaths, you will see that they are in key positions when it comes to international illegal arms dealing, drugs, pedophile trafficking. It's the same networks, and these are people that have corrupted themselves or become too greedy or a threat to these networks. And thus being taken care of. Uwe Barschel, I think, he survived several attacks on his life before they finally got him. And as far as I've been able to find out, the team that took him out in a very bizarre form in that bathtub in the hotel was led by Ted Shackley, who's a CIA operative. He was the chief of COVID operation for the Western Hemisphere, CIA top. He was Ted Shackley was also working extremely close to David Atlee Phillips and E. Howard Hunt in a group called Operation 40. They were super central in taking out JFK. They were very central in taking out Robert Kennedy at the Ambassador Hotel. They were part of killing Che Guevara. They were part of killing Robert Smith in South Africa. They were part of killing Pablo Neruda in Chile. They were part of the killing Salvador Allende and take over in Chile. They were part of Operation Phoenix in Vietnam, that whole thing. They were part of Operation Condor in Latin America, killing thousands there. And David Atlee Phillips was the control. Oh, maybe it's too much details. Is it? Or do you want details?
Go for it.
Okay. David Atlee Phillips. Ted Shackley was station chief of JM Wave in Florida, the biggest CIA operation station in the world at that time. And David Atlee Phillips, who was a close associate to him, he was the controller of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man that is said to have killed JFK. Absolutely not. Lee Harvey Oswald, in my book, is an absolute hero who knew that Kennedy was going to be taken out. He knew from about the end of July 1963 that he was going to be the patsy, and still he stayed to do everything he could to stop the assassination, even though he knew that he was going to give up his life. In my book, absolute hero. But David Atlee Phillips was his controller, using that also to paint him absolutely black as a patsy to be used. David Atlee Phillips was also the controller of James Files, which is the shooter behind the picket fence who fired the last final headshot. He was also the controller of a man called Michael Vernon Townley, who was very close to this Operation 40, the ultra secret hit team. That was also part of the assassination of Olof Palme 23 years later. So you see, these key people, they pop up everywhere in these assassinations. And Ted Shackley, when it comes to Uwe Barschel, extremely important. And the paymaster for this team of operation, of secret hit team of assassins, was George Bush Sr.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
And Bush Sr. has used this team. They've changed the names over the decades and the structure and so on. They changed them many times, but he has held them very close to him and used them in so many operations. So Bush Sr., not Boy George or Jeb Bush, they're like jokes, but Bush Sr., he is one of the most evil individuals in this whole jigsaw, I tell you.
Wow, this is really interesting. What you're telling here about Uwe Barschel and that Ted Shackley was in Geneva, because we have different narratives, of course, in this Barschel case. The official one, which was always questionable, and but there, I guess it was in the 2000s. There came this guy called Viktor Ostrovsky. And he's a former Mossad agent, and I think he wrote a couple of books. And in these books, or at least in one of them, he claims that the Barschel murder was an operation of the Mossad, and he also laid out the quite complicated way of how they killed the guy. And so. But now you bring in this information with Ted Shackley, which is new for me, and I guess for most listeners.
But you make a mistake when you said it was a Mossad operation or it was a CIA operation. The answer is yes. They combined their efforts. They do that.
It's like the same, just with different labels, but we're talking about the same.
Do you know Chip Tatum? Chip Tatum, he's a former CIA whistleblower. I know him personally. He was a deep cover agent for 25 years. He was a black Night Stalker helicopter pilot. He was involved in several false flag operations himself. He was one of the pilots in the Iran-Contra scandal, flying weapons out and drugs into to the States, to Mena in Arkansas, delivering tons of drugs to Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr. personally, and Dan Lasseter. And I mean, he's even filmed these things, but he was not aware of it. He was just a military guy. He was also a black op assassin for years, and he was later the commander of an ultra-secret hit team called Pegasus under the direct control of George Bush Sr. They carried out at least 17 assassinations in the Western world. Okay, so Chip he became a whistleblower in '92 after Bush wanted him to kill Ross Tatum. If you remember Ross Tatum, he was a billionaire who wanted to run for president himself, and Bush Sr. wanted him taken out, but that was just too much for Chip. So since then, he has turned this whole thing around as a whistleblower. But what he says is that these operations, it is a mistake to see them as like, oh, it's a Mossad thing, it's an MI6. They use each other, all the time. He said when, for instance, the CIA could not do hits in their own country, so out of moral, but out of certain rules, they were not to kill people in the US. So they had the mafia do it for them, or people through the FBI do that job. Then if somebody needed to be taken out in London, the MI6 would have problems doing that because they could easily be exposed. So they brought in like French intelligence agencies, or they would use soldiers of fortune from Turkey or Denmark and so on. So these operations are often put together so that a team goes in, there will be people from the CIA, maybe MI6, Mossad, and somebody from that local country that are part of just the logistics and carry out the whole thing. So...
Okay, Ola, two things that I need to ask you because we were talking about this. You're mentioning contacts that you have to CIA and stuff like that, and what they, as whistleblowers. I wanted to throw in the name Ted Gunderson, but at the same time, I just finished watching a documentary about following the assassination of the Israeli sports people in Munich in 1972, I believe it was, where Gilda Meir and the Mossad went about assassinating people in different countries undercover. And the man, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but the man that was in charge of it had made a couple of mistakes. For example, they had found, I believe it was one person in Africa or in France who the identity was mistaken. This was just a normal guy that worked in a library or something like that. His wife was expecting a baby, and they started finding out that the Mossad was taking it upon themselves to do assassinations in different countries without anybody knowing about it. Pretty amazing documentary. And those are the two things that I wanted to throw in, because you were mentioning that they work together. But here you have the Mossad story or a narrative saying that the Mossad took it upon themselves to go into countries illegally and take out people without anybody having any idea about it. What do you say about that, or how do you see that?
What else is new? It's like you have to see, when you look at it from a global point of view, you have to see that Israel is not just a tiny little country. When Benjamin Netanyahu went to the Congress in the US, as far as I remember, he had 25 standing ovations. 29 or 25, something like that. I mean, unheard. Obama had like 15 at the most. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? A small little country where you look from the outside and you think, oh my God, this is it's mass murder of a small little minority. What the hell is going on? And then you have in the US, where the standing ovations more than anywhere else, it will show you who is in control. Who is in control? Otherwise, they would never do a thing like that. So Israel are totally, it's based on all the first prime ministers, all of these people were assassins. They were so-called terrorists, all of them. That is how they grew up. And their methods in the world have been terrorism. They are the ones who invented terrorism. They are the ones who invented terror attacks. And they are the ones that are showing the way. So all of these soft, cuddly type of versions that, they went out on their own, and they've been doing that all the time. They are brutal forces, very brutal forces. And you will see the theme. I used to think that false flag operation was quite new, or I was just aware of from Boston and onwards, sort of that, is it like this they do? I had no idea. I was learning more and more. But now when I start going back in time, it's sort of like, are you kidding me? That one as well? And that one as well? It's like we have to unlearn and start looking at these events from a different perspective. And one of the things that they, in many operations, are that they want the Palestinians to be the bad guys and Israel to be the victim. When once you look at it from an objective point of view, just like there's a so-called war going on in Gaza and so, no, there's not. They're behind walls, they have no weapons, and you fly in F-16 fighters and bomb them. That is not sort of like a war. Yeah, but they threw like a rock at us or a sand pedal or whatever. That doesn't make it right that you do that. It's like sending Mike Tyson into a daycare center and he beats the crap out of these children because they peed in the pants, and make that okay. It's not. There's absolutely no balance in this whole thing. So I've been starting to look into this thing with the Olympic Games in München as well, because that was the same theme. And also, when you look at these current terror attacks, they very often link them to things that have happened in the past, so that we will emotionally go again. We will I remember, yes, it will hit you somewhere in your subconscious. Like when there was this Dallas police shooting, I was just like, are you kidding me? Really, Dallas? And I said, by any chance, not Dealey Plaza. Not Dealey Plaza. No, it was not Dealey Plaza. It was like 200 meters away from Dealey Plaza. And I was actually staying, where the conference was actually the Crown Palace Hotel, which is where they filmed this mass shooting or this killing in Dallas, which was absolutely crap. I went down there were no bullet holes. It's called fire sparks instead, these film effect things that looks like ricochets. It's like, but when I just had to reverse, I'm sorry, I get tired sometimes. But if I can please make a quick rewind. Who filmed Charlie Hebdo? Was it some French guy on a tour, sitting on his terrace having a tea in the summer morning? No, it was not. It was one of the chief editor or the deputy editor of the second biggest TV channel in Israel that just happened to be there filming that. Okay, so we go to Nice. Who happened to film that? Do you know who? Why was he even filming this truck before it even started attacking? His name was Richard Gutjahr, one of your fellow Germans. Major question mark around this individual. I was track his butt down and put him up against the wall, expose this man. Anyway, so Richard Gutjahr just happened to be there filming. He was at the Westminster Hotel in Nice. Okay, that's where the attack is said to have said, because they said that's where he started filming. Then the shootout was at the casino, and it's said to have been 1.2 miles further down the road. But it's not, it's 215 meters. Okay, so the whole thing is very limited closed off area. So Richard Goodyear. Who was Richard Goodyear? So I always track down these people. Who are the ones that films it? So one of the things I found around him was he's like this internet sensation as a journalist. How to do internet journalism, which is interesting. Then he was the first person in the world that got an iPad. He was the number one in the line of people getting an iPad. I have no idea, but he was the one being filmed coming out with the first iPad. But who is he married to? He is married to an Israeli woman called Einat Wilf, and she is the former advisor to Shimon Peres. She was a member of the Knesset, and in her military duties, she was in Unit 8802, totally connected to Mossad. So here we have a photographer filming this whole thing with his wife that is a advisor to Shimon Peres, the former Prime Minister of Israel, and a member of Knesset. What are the chances? Then I thought that the next attack would be in Acropolis, because they were putting all of these hints in that the next would be Acropolis. So I went out and warned about that. Instead, it was the Olympic supermarket in München. So who was there? Well, welcome back, Richard Goodyear. And who was the one being interviewed all the time? There was this girl called Tamina Stoll, who was being interviewed in all kinds of international media. Who is Richard Goodyear's daughter? Welcome in on stage, yes, who had just happened to be filmed together with Hillary Clinton a month or two earlier. I mean, really, and now you have Berlin, who's an absolute crap operation with a truck that didn't even go through the Christmas market, but instead reversed into position because there were these metal poles so that he couldn't even get in there. He would have well, the whole thing is, I'm a former truck driver. You cannot do the maneuvers that he is said to have done. There were all of these victims. I kid you not, 0 dead. 0. You're welcome to come here and chop off my right arm if there's any real victims in that operation. And who had just happened to be there, left just a few minutes before it happened? Shapiro Shlomo, or Shlomo Shapiro, I think his name is. He is just the terror expert in Tel Aviv, Israeli terror expert, who just happened to be on location. And in his university, who is one of the speakers there, the lecturers there? Einat Wilf, the wife of Richard Goodyear. I mean, come on. What are the chances? And then you have the Finnish woman, Miriam, I can't remember her name now. She's one of the press people from NATO who just happened to be there as well. And then the very next day on Facebook had a blurred picture of her giving a thumb up right outside where this massacre had taken place. Then you had the German journalist who was there on location 90 seconds after it happened, when he's just walking around filming. Oh, it's so awful. Officially, you have 12 dead and around 50 people wounded. Where are they? Well, there are 3 people you see absolutely blurred, and there's sort of no screaming, no nothing. So that means 62 people minus 3. That would be like 59 people underneath the truck. Where are they? No blood, no nothing. Oh, God. And then BBC and CNN was on location before German press was even there. I mean, really? What are the chances? Really?
Yeah, amazing, Ole.
I'm speechless. I'm sorry. Ole. But as a joke, I need to say this. Are you a conspiracy theorist?
I am not. No, because the word, it's a very good question, because conspiracy theorist was a word that was created by the CIA right after the JFK assassination to put a finger at people like us just saying you're a nutter. I ask, what are the chances? Really, what are the chances that Richard Goodyear, the wife, is from Knesset, who is the colleague of Shlomo Shapiro Shlomo? I can never remember his name.
It really doesn't matter in this instant, but it's just, it makes me speechless to see how obvious it is. I mean, when you see and the funny thing is that when Frank and we do the show, often the theme is that all of a sudden you get into these subjects and it connects from one situation to another, whether it be these assassinations, political assassinations, to what went on 100, 200 years ago. You see the same scenario through whatever you want to call it, the elite, the bloodlines, or whatever it is that they're trying to conserve, the people that want to control. The things that you're saying tonight make me speechless, because it's just ridiculous. It's so obvious.
And exactly. Let's connect some dots here. And like you brought this up now, Alex. Looking back 200 years, I'm gonna throw in the case of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, who was for the Habsburg Austrian throne.
First World War, no?
Yeah, how do you say that? He was the one who was supposed to be the next emperor, and he was assassinated in Sarajevo, which then triggered First World War.
Right.
If we look at this case, I mean, okay, this is not the modern Operation 40 stuff, but it's the same patterns, isn't it? I mean, also there we have this one guy that is to blame. But there's information out that there was not only this one guy. That was quite a few people there, and there was even on the same day different attempts which were not successful. And then he was the one who did the job. But then everyone was blaming also only on him. But we see the connections into some. I think this guy, he was part of an so-called anarchy group called the Black Hand. And but they are also connected to some Balkan nationalists, whatever. It's a connection into these secret societies. And do we see, Ole? Do we see the same pattern there? If we look at the cases like this one,
I would say when you look at history books, which is where we mostly have to find information about these things, they're written by the conquerors. They're written by the people who won and took over whatever. You know, so you will never hear the one that was defeated. You will never hear their version, or very rarely. So when you look at a thing like this, you have to have a very open mind, I would say, because it's just like with Abraham Lincoln, where it is said that John Wilkes Booth jumped down the rail and shot him. That's a one-man operation. Well, there was 8 people executed. How does that make sense to you? What I'm saying is that very, very, very often we have to look upon it, look at from a higher point of view. I got confused. Executed or tried for the murder. I think there were 8 of them executed. I need to check that. But anyway, at all times you need to look from a higher point of view. Who benefited from this thing happening? What happened? What was the sequence of things that took place after this thing happened? And you will very often see that if somebody was taken out like that by a lone crazy guy, I would very much doubt that it's the lone crazy guy that shot him. He was there to take the fall. He was being positioned there to take the fall and be blamed for it. The killing itself would have been carried out by professionals, and you will often see triangular fire, ambush, multiple people involved, and so on, because they need to make sure that this person dies, so they cannot only count on one person doing it. And then that individual that takes the place will then be blamed for being part of an, like anarchist or some kind of, I don't know anything really about this case, I haven't looked into it at all, but I am sure that I will find the same type of ingredients in this one, and that you will see the same global power structure behind the scenes. Because that is how, for instance, we're talking about this First World War, the Second World War. You know, the so-called Zimmerman telegram, that was the one that got the US involved in the First World War. Who was part of faking that Zimmerman telegram? Well, it was Prescott Bush's dad. And Prescott Bush is the father of George Bush Sr., who was part of creating the Second World War, where he was one of the people funneling the funds into the Hitler war machine, with the backing of the Dulles brothers, who was later part of creating the OSS and the CIA. And then in Dallas you had George Bush Sr. as the paymaster of Operation 40, which was where many of the shooters in this ambush came. I mean, he was taken out from many angles. It was such a brutal slaughter of this poor individual, JFK here. But George Bush Sr. was the one part of being in charge of that hit team, and who was on location as well. Well, we had George Walker Bush on location in Dealey Plaza, seeing the whole thing being carried out. I think he was only like 17 or something like that. It's through the generations they sort of get you involved, and it stays in the families, and then they just focus on concentration, the power to fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask you, Ole, if you felt, because Frank and I, we talk about also breakaway civilizations, and if these bloodlines or families, whatever you want to call them, if this is a thing that's carried out through many of these years, you know, that they're always at that top of the list, and they're the ones that always look to see who can play the game and who cannot play the game, so to say. And I was wondering what your opinion was. Is that a certain group of families, bloodlines? Do you see maybe, like what Frank and I talk about, a breakaway civilization that has nothing to do with actually who we are, and that is a complete different world compared to us?
I have no idea. I work on a street level. I try to figure it out on a street level, and then I go up to, when you go up through the power pyramid, I go up to like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations. These levels, the rest, what is the top of the pyramid, I do not know. Aliens, Jesuits, reptiles. The Illuminati, I don't know. I leave that to other people who are more devoted to that part. The thing is, what I found early on is that if I'm here to be part of making a difference, I need to focus on one little area and then, research the hell out of that point. Especially if it's somewhere where nobody else has really been before. That can make a difference and help the whole picture. So I've been focusing very much on state-sponsored terrorism and top political assassinations. These are the ones that I focused on.
So then I guess we can nod in another phenomena which is present in Europe. Maybe some of the international audience might not be so aware of that. What I'm talking about is in English, it's called the Stay Behind, NATO Stay Behind Army. In Europe, we speak of, we take the Italian name Gladio, and there's quite a few terror attacks in different European countries, Italy, but also Germany. The Oktoberfest attentat, which is as some people say, it points into this Gladio stuff, and there again we have a Patsy who also died at the spot, and the case was closed pretty soon. But in Munich, ever since, people were not really happy with the narrative, because people knew there was something more behind that. So can we connect this Gladio Stay Behind stuff? Can we also connect this into this international web?
Big time. I think this is crucial to understand about the Stay Behind or Gladio. For people who are not aware of it, it was after the Second World War, where NATO and the Pentagon, the NSA and so on, they were having meetings, and the idea was, how can we protect our new territory against an invasion? At that point, it was the threat from the east was the problem. So how can we protect ourselves? So somebody came up with the idea: why don't we create a hidden ghost army that no one is aware of? That will consist of hundreds of small cells. These cells will be like 6 to 10 people that are there. Military people, that are equipped with weapons, fuel, radio equipment, everything needed for a resistance movement. All of that would then be dug down in the ground, well hidden, and then hundreds and hundreds of cells like that would be connected in an invisible network that nobody knew about, totally compartmentalized and so on. So the idea was that should any of the NATO countries be invaded, what could very easily be done is that the top of the society, the politicians and all of these other people not so brave that they would dare to stay, they and the royalties could escape to London, and then from London activate the whole resistance movement in one go. Boom! Everything would be in place, fuel, weapons, ammo, everything, vehicles would be in location and could be activated like boom. Which, when you think of it, is a fantastic idea, I think. And this network was called Gladio, or Stay Behind. You know, you leave behind these troops that could then be activated. That's where the name came. But most European NATO countries had their own name. For instance, in Sweden it's Stay Behind. In Denmark it's Absalon. In Italy, that's where the Gladio name comes from, and so on. So nobody knew about these things, and it was only in 1990, I think, in Italy, where there was this whole scandal that erupted, showing that there was about 10,000 people in Italy involved, all the way up to the top of the government, and so a massive scandal. And then that scandal led to other NATO countries where the same thing was exposed. But I think in the early 60s and so on, when the threat from the east wasn't that big anymore, somebody was thinking, or maybe it was later on even, was like, why don't we use these? We got all of these hard warriors, with weapons, everything is there, nobody knows about it. Can't we make use for it? And then somebody came up with the strategy of tension. It's a CIA operation called the strategy of tension. How to inflict fear in modern society so that modern society will welcome more and more militarized control. So here is the one that we're facing. So through absolute random acts of violence, they have to be absolute random and happen to people that are totally innocent for no apparent reason. That is the only purpose with this whole thing, and that is why they've targeted supermarket, train stations, ferries. There are many so-called accidents that are Gladio operations as well. And through these networks as well, they are using killers, for whatever operation is needed. They just take people out of the network, use them in a different country, boom, 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 sleeping agents go back. And so Gladio is super important to understand. And then after the scandals in the 1990s, they said, no, please forgive us, we didn't really mean to do that, so now we stopped everything. Absolute bullshit. It's just still in action, still in place, and it's, as far as I know, a mandatory part of being a NATO member is that you have to create your own Stay Behind movement. So I tell you, I don't know how many terror acts I've looked into, terror groups and so on, and every single time it takes me back to the Gladio network. I'm at a point where I don't even know if there is such a thing as a terrorist, a real one. No, I tell you, I kid you not, I don't know, because every time I come across one, it doesn't matter if it's the underwear bomber or the shoe bomber, or if it's the whatever bomber, or every time you look into it, it's the same behind it, the same structure behind it. And George Napolitano in the US, he totally confirms what I say. He says all national terror acts in the US have had FBI involved. FBI have equipped, trained, and sponsored them.
Yeah, and let me drop a name in here. A big credit goes also to Swiss researcher Dr. Daniele Ganser, who brought out a lot of this Gladio Stay Behind stuff. He brought it out in the German-speaking world. And just for the international audience, check out Dr. Daniele Ganser and his work on that. He's a researcher at a Swiss university, and he brought out a lot of information, and actually I'm not quite sure if his material is out there in English too, but I think it should be, because he's quite big, and he laid out the stuff. And we see it's still present there, because it has been really many cases of these sort.
There's so many. It's just not only just a few. I mean, so many. There's a former politician called Richard Cottrell, who he was a top politician in I think within the United Nations, or I'm not really sure, in the European Parliament, I believe. And he discovered this whole thing and has written a book called Gladio, the Dagger of Terror, or something like that, and where he absolutely, pinpoints it. And I think extremely important to become aware of this. There's a fantastic researcher now also called, her name is Sybil Edwards, I think, where she's very much into exposing what she calls Gladio B, which is like an updated version. They often say, no, we stopped using it. The only thing they do is just upgrade it and change the name of it a little bit, and then think, they'll buy it now. So, but it's all a matter of fear. It is all the time a matter, how can they keep us fearful? That is the thing. And now when they dumbed us down with so much fluoride in the water and all of these computer games where the Chainsaw Massacre soon is like a lollipop version, it's like, how can you keep people fearful? Not easy. So they're sort of like biting their own tail. And this is what I feel as well. It's like, if you start understanding that real terrorism does not exist the way we're being told. Real terrorists are the people that you believe you have selected to take care of you. These are the ones. It's not for nothing, it's called state-sponsored terrorism. When you really start thinking of what that means that the people that you think you have elected are blowing you up, are doing things to hurt you, to freak you out, so that you will accept that they will put more and more militarized control, the new normal, with tanks in the streets, with armed soldiers in the streets, with cameras everywhere, with body scanners here and there, with everything. It's there. Right. It's their deed, and they need you to be fearful to accept it. So I say, every time something happens where you should get afraid, ask yourself, who benefits from me being afraid? Who benefits from me believing this?
Right, and talking about state-sponsored terrorism, it was a former German Bundeskanzler and statesman, Helmut Schmidt, a man of the highest places in German politics, and he was at his later age, he was in an interview, he was stating that a much bigger threat is state-sponsored terrorism. That was what he's saying, and the guy doing the interview was even asking, "What are you talking about?" But then he said, "Well, we just leave it like that." But I know exactly what I'm saying.
But listen, Eisenhower's goodbye speech, before Kennedy took over, what is he warning about? He's warning about the military-industrial complex that is taking over in every little town, in every little area, in every little area of life. And so I just have to tell you, the reason why I'm sitting here coughing, snorting and so on is not that I've got a cold. I feel crap, but it's not because I've got a cold. It's because I'm sorry to be the messenger with bad news here, but a friend of mine who's a former commercial pilot, his name is Willem Felderhof, he was a commercial pilot for 25 years, he almost died while flying because he was feeling very, very sick from time to time, and he kept going to the doctor, the airline's doctor, and the doctor said, no, you just, you need to rest, it's a burnout or whatever, take it easy. And he left, took some weeks off, started feeling better. Then he came back and started feeling more and more sick. Anyway, so after a while, he felt that there's something wrong with the air inside the airplanes. What the hell is going on? But the airlines just absolutely refused to do anything about it. So in the end, he put like test tubes underneath his uniform and so on when he went flying. And together with a scientist and a former pilot, they found out, yep, the air inside the airplane's toxic. And he's been... You will see that there are like thousands of people, stewardesses, pilots, and people with so many weird symptoms, and so on. And the reason for that is that the air intake into more or less all planes with jet engines is that the air comes in through the jet engines, then it's compressed and heated, and the leakage, I think it's oil leakage from the jet engines, that creates a neurotoxin that is then compressed, heated, and pumped into the airplanes. Meaning that, according to these pilots, jet lag is not what we're being told. Jet lag is just because you've been exposed to these neurotoxins for a longer period of time. And I'm sure many will have experienced that when you fly somewhere, when you come there, you have this awful cold and you're coughing like for days afterwards. It's a really deep, hoarse kind of cough and so on.
Oh, well, that's what I'm going through right now because I just got back from New York.
And I just got back from England, and it's just like I get off the plane, it starts running out of my nose and everything. The good news is that there are ways. Apparently, you pump yourself with C vitamins. You really overdose. You can't overdose yourself with C vitamins, but pump yourself with C vitamins. There's also a mixture of essential oils called thieves, I think, that you can put on yourself to help with the breathing. Also, there's some. I have friends who've used like surgical masks so that you breathe through this whole thing. That can help you as well. So there are new airlines now. I think the new one is called the Dreamliner or something like that. That they have a new air system, and also Finnish Airlines, they are making big promotions about that. Then, come breathe the fresh air. What they say is we've sorted this problem, but most airlines have not, especially not the cheap ones. So yeah, so it's bad news, but it's good to become aware of it, and let's put masks on all of us until they sort this whole thing out, because it's bad. Every time I go on a conference, I come back a mess,
Interesting, and
thank you for the information. Absolutely.
Didn't we have quite a few cases in the last years where planes disappeared, dropped down, crashed, and always the pilot was to blame? Like including this German Wings airplane a couple of years back. You remember? No, always it's a pilot,
With the students, yeah.
But we're back to Gladio operations here. And also, most of these planes are Boeing planes where you got remote controlled. I mean, in these airlines, they have, it looks like a USB memory stick that can just be inserted. And then the whole control of the airline can be taken over. They say for the security, should there be a hijacking. But I would say security for who? I would prefer that the pilot is flying and not some remote weirdo somewhere at a station somewhere that is going to send it straight down into the ground, or send it in over enemy territory or something like that. Every time you hear one of these stories, like this German airliner, what was the story? Look at him, and the photos didn't even look the same. Several different photos of the same individual. Suddenly he just decided, the pilot went to the bathroom, wasn't it? And then he got himself in and locked the door, and I just said, I'm going to kill myself and all of you. Allah, I know they didn't put in Allah Akbar maybe, but otherwise than that. And then just flew straight into the ground, into enemy territory, and boom. Look at these things and see what are the repercussions, what is that they do with these things, not only to inflict fear in us, because I would suggest that it's not only terror attacks. They try to get to us on all different levels, through propaganda, through the TV, but also when it come to transport systems like trains derailing or train terror attacks, where they're just so bad, these ones, or airlines. It's just to make you, no, I can't move, I can't go, I can't do anything anymore because all of these things happen. I tell you, if they don't stop messing with us, this world instantly would just turn into a totally different place.
Wow.
Have you? I just have to say, some of these train attacks. Why do they choose trains? Because they need limited access areas. You know, on a train you got different train wagons, so that even if you're on the same train, you will not have no idea what's going on in 2 wagons down the line. Especially not if they close or pull the curtains in between. So every single time it's somebody, a jihadi, somebody who's like, what was it like? There were 3 American soldiers on this train who overheard this Muslim terrorist load his Kalashnikov in the bathroom. I mean, what are the chances? And then, it just repeats itself. When you can't get access to the train, then that wagon disappears, it's destroyed, it's always destroyed afterwards instead of using the evidence. No photos from the crime site. You see people walk in and out without caring about evidence or messing the whole crime scene up. It's like... And then you see all of these. What do you see from terror attacks? You see police officers. Does that mean that there was a terror attack? No. You see police cars with flashing lights. Does that mean that there was actually a terror attack? No. You see fire brigade. Does that mean? No. You see police. You see officers. You see military. Does that mean that there was a terror attack? No. It means that it's possibly just an operation, a military operation carried out right in front of your eyes. And just because people running around in German police uniforms in Berlin are being filmed does not mean that they're German police officers. It means that there's an individual with a German police uniform. Many, many times, I would say, the operation is carried out in a center of whatever the center is, and then the people close to the action are involved in the operation. Then you have normal, honest, decent officers and so on. They're being called on location, said, please, you have to shut off that street, guard that so nobody can enter here, and so. So they think they're doing the right thing. Same with the military. They're being pulled in. Soldiers that know nothing about what's going on, not understanding that they're actually protecting the bad boys, and so on. So many, many times, people are doing what they believe is right. And also you see all of these people where there's a terror attack, and you see all of these people running, and so, my God, there must be hundreds of people involved in this operation. How can they keep it quiet? Absolutely not. What you do is super simple. If you're in an airport, you take out a gun, you fire 2 blanks up in the air. I tell you, people will start running, especially nowadays. They will run, and if you're the first 20, is your team running, there will be a few hundred people running with you, getting away from the so-called terror attack. And the only thing that actually happened was that you fired 2 blanks up in the air.
Yeah, and just yesterday it happened in an airport in Germany. Where was it? I guess in Hamburg. That there was a pepper spray. Can we say bomb? No, just some pepper spray got spread, and the whole place was shut down for an hour or so. People were in fear. I mean, this is terror in its true sense means fear. I mean, it comes from the Latin language, and that's exactly what it is. It's just it's its purpose to create fear.
Well, I mean, Frank, we've talked about this also all the time, many times. We always come back to it, and I'm talking about this MK Ultra controlling people, mass control, And this is, we're going back into the World War II with that Project Paperclip and the rat lines and stuff like that. All these people that were getting into mind control. How do you control those masses? I mean, we talked about it. Something very interesting, Ola. I don't know if you've heard about this, but just about how people control stuff like that. We're going to talk about the entertainment industry for a second here. In 1968 to 1973, there was a gentleman by the name of Am0k, who was the head of production for the Rolling Stones. And in 1968, he flew to Geneva, Switzerland, and met with Albert Speer because he had plans for a new type of stage presence for the Rolling Stones, because before the 68 and stuff like that, when the Beatles and the Who and the Rolling Stones played, sometimes the women were screaming so loud that the band couldn't hear themselves. So there was a new thing, and he met with Albert Speer. and he put his plans in front of Albert Speer, and Albert Speer just laughed at him, and he pushed the Am0k's plans to the side, and he pulled out his plans for Nuremberg or Germania, what he wanted to do. And if you look at the way you get 50,000, 60,000 people to concentrate of one entity that's standing up on the stage, it's Albert Speer's design, and when you look at all these things, for example, these secret military operations and stuff like that, it all goes back to what we saw in former Nazi Germany and what the Americans pulled in to their government to get this information, and you see it being used today. I mean, do you have an opinion on that?
What else is new?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, because we see it in the antique age as well. We see it in Rome. It's exactly the same thing. It's panem senses. It's the game, the fascination, the mass control of people there. Psychology. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but the thing is that I'm saying is this ideology that fascist type of thinking, is that maybe what we would see as that occult thing behind what's going on in our world? I don't know, Ola. Am I getting too wide off track here? What would you think about that?
I know that I don't know.
Okay, and that's what.
And I also know that our mentality is easy. We're easily played. We're not very sophisticated beings. In some ways we are, but in other ways we're very easy to play. And like I had this lecture in Sweden where I was talking about false flag operations, and afterwards a magician came up to me and said, "My God, it sounded just like the education I just went through as a magician. How to divert the attention, how to play the minds of people, believing that this is happening. It's very simple." And we're trying to make it very complicated because we think we're so advanced that it must be so hard for somebody to fool us. Absolutely not. We are very easily played, I would say. I mean, a plane the size of like a 757 that hits the Pentagon and disappears into the hole of a missile. It does not take some super brain to understand, I don't really think that was what happened. But to this very day, this is what we're being told. A fire in two of the biggest skyscrapers in the world, the strongest, constructed to take an impact of several different planes, turn on fire, and then it's dustified. Well, it must be like that if we're told like that. So of course it was the planes. Do you know how simple are we to play? And we say, why do they treat us with no respect? Do we deserve respect? I mean, Henry Kissinger and other people call us useless eaters. I mean, really, if we were so advanced, so intelligent as we believe we are, why is this going on? Why haven't we stopped this 100 years ago? Just saying, are you pulling that one again? I mean, come on. The same theme again and again and again. Do you believe me? Do you want me to believe this? It's ridiculous. I show my daughter these things. She's just 11 or 12. I tell her about 9/11. She's like, come on, Dad, why are you lying to me? I said, I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you what grown-up people believe. And she said, but this is stupid. Why do you talk to me like that? I'm a child. I'm not stupid. But I'm just saying, but this is the official version. This is what many grown-ups believe. And she's like, oh, come on. So we are, at the same time, I think we should salute ourselves, because we are being bombarded with by a propaganda machine the size that this world has never ever seen anything like it. So sophisticated, so many different layers through so many different channels that are bombarding us into bending over, and we're still standing. So, okay, I see, I'm a bit confused, still standing in balance. I salute myself and think, doing pretty good. But
wow. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I want to say is, life is beautiful. The world is beautiful. Mother Earth is beautiful. Yes, we have messed her up a bit, that is true, but not at all the way we're being told. Global warming, all of these things, it's dying, it's over, it's to the end of time. Absolutely not. Look at nature. Look at the sophistication of nature. Look at a flower, look at a feather. I mean, my God, it's so sophisticated. And then we're being told, and they want us to believe that it's so simple and everything is going to hell. It is absolutely not. But it's like a beautiful, beautiful body, but with a cancer growth that if we do not expose it, it will kill the body. It will kill us if we do not expose it. It will be smelly and painful, but it is absolutely mandatory that we do it, otherwise it will kill it. Because if you look at the mentality behind the forces, whatever they are, that are doing this to the world, it is the exact same mentality as a cancer growth, a malignant cancer growth, that will do everything to kill its carrier. So the greatest orgasm for a cancer cell is the second the carrier dies, and so will the cancer cell. So what is the mentality behind it? It's absolutely bizarre. So what I say is, it's good to know about these things. What can we do about it? First, understand you are being had. You are being played. I am being played on a level I'm sure I know on certain levels, and on other levels I have no idea. But it's all the time a matter of taking the power back. Don't put your power out there. Don't trust and wait for someone else to do it. The one you've been waiting for is you. The one I've been waiting for is me. We are the one who have to do it. And whatever it is, for me it doesn't matter, are they aliens, reptilians, Illuminati, whoever, somebody is messing with us. That's the problem. Somebody is messing with us, and they're doing it through my mind. It is through fear that they control me. So what can I do? The only thing I can focus on, 100%, let go of fear. If I don't want to go their way, then just not be fearful. Sounds easy? Not. But there are many ways, through meditation, through study of spiritual scriptures, whatever that helps you lift your soul, and also I would say to fill your heart with gratitude at all times, to lift your spirit when you start getting fearful. Stop your thoughts, stop it, because your mind, in the old yoga scriptures, they say your mind is like a drunken monkey stung by a scorpion high on acid. I mean, it can take you in all directions. Whatever you want to go into, fear or whatever, it will just go full speed ahead. So you have to pull it back, and calm yourself down. Breathe deep. So next time something happens, boom, I should be scared. Okay, hang on, before I buy into this, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. let me take a walk. I will now go and cuddle a cat. I will hug a tree. Let me help my neighbor. Breathe in watch some ants do their stuff. And then when I calm down and I feel more in balance, let me look at the problem again and see, okay, so you're telling me that start checking the sources. Who are these sources? I mean, CNN, B bullshit, C. I mean, these type of, that is just, understand that the black box in the center of more or less everyone's home is an open sewage. It looks very fancy and they even call it smart. Once again, they play with words. Smart is not the word I would call it. Demonic, I would call it. But see that as an open sewage where it's pumped at you from powers that do not want you well. You put your child in front of these things and, oh, it's such a great babysitter, I do it as well. Not clever. If you understand the mentality on the highest level behind these sources. I'm not talking about normal people because they have no idea. Most people think they're doing good and contributing to the world and so on. Many of us are not. But once you start seeing the mentality, if you knew that there was some satanic people that are into child sacrifice and stuff, that are the owners of that channel, that have decided that this program is for you, would you look at it? Would you turn it off, or what would you do if you understand actually what's going on here? I would suggest there's this magical button on the remote. It's normally red and it says off. You click that and something magical happens. First, it will go quiet. You will have some withdrawal symptoms for a day or two. But then after a time, you will start seeing, I don't know what, I'm starting to feel better. What the hell is going on? You will start seeing that you got a family around you. Maybe you haven't spoken to them for a year or two, or maybe you can have dinner at a table instead in front of the TV. See a neighbor. Look around you. There's so many people who needs help. So many lonely people, where so many people are not as strong as you are, that need support through these times. You know, these are heavy times, not easy. And it's up to people like us not to spread black, awful, negative information about the world is doomed and everything is going under and everybody is evil. That doesn't help anyone. Important to understand, yes, but it doesn't help anyone. So see and try to live by examples. Show yourself and others that I can carry this type of information on my shoulders and still be in balance. And then focus on selfless service. Do good, be good, never expect anything in return. Just give, and you will start seeing amazing things happen in your life, I tell you. Especially this selfless thing. I love it. You know, in a cafe, you see somebody in a corner that looks a bit sad or lonely like that. Just pay for their coffee. Don't let them see that you're doing it. And don't expect any thanks. Leave before they know that you did it. Or you go down a toll road or something like that. Pay for the car that comes behind you. These type of small things, you know, like cut your neighbor's garden when she's not home, or do things that will make people believe in angels, you know, that give them hope. Hope is the most powerful thing that you can give anyone. So I would say, hallelujah, baby, bring it on. I'm not buying it. You know, I'm not buying your crap. And do you know when I finished my talk with in Dallas? I said that a friend of mine, St. Gardner, and I, we wanted to make a statement, you know, something that we really stood for, and we wanted to turn it into a song. And we spent months meditating, contemplating on finding the exact right words and so on. And I said, now I'm going to sing, and if you want to join me, if this is something you feel that you can really stand for, then please join me. And so I did. We're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. We're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. We're so tired of the bullshit, we're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. Verse 2, we're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. This is the thing. Break the spell. Break the spell. You know, people are so fearful. Bring in some humor and break the spell. And also, when these forces confront you, I mean, some of them are scary people, but they believe that what they do is right, and they believe that you are the enemy. In many cases, I am their enemy, which I am not. You know, so if I can suggest one thing that I've seen work, is that when somebody approaches you with a dark eyes, scary-looking person, in an aggressive way, what I try to do is turn down the volume so I cannot hear the words, you know, and then focus on love, because I know he wants me with the head down in the mud, foot on my head, where he can control me. But the thing is, if I'm not fearful, I take the power away from him. So what I do is I turn down the volume, and then what helps me is if I keep repeating the same words so that my mind cannot go into fear mode. So what I repeat, the word that works for me is divine. Divine, 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 divine. He's divine. He's somebody's father. He's somebody's son. He's somebody's brother. He does not know what he's doing. He's divine, divine, divine. And then at the same time also, in this aggressive phase, what I look for, I look in his eyes, and I look in these black eyes, because often it's not that they're evil in any way, it's just the lack of light. They are lost souls. And I look for this human spark that is there. But when you look for it, but with a heart full of love, not hate, it ignites it, and it's like a microsecond. You can just boom, there it is. And once that happens, miracles changes. It's like suddenly this guy is without power. And because first, when you do not get afraid, they get confused, because they're like, what the hell, do you not see who I am? Have you not seen my uniform? Have you not seen my bulletproof underpants and my M16 or whatever? Why are you not scared? If you can stay in love mode and then see this spark, boom, from that minute, I tell you, like 10 minutes down the line, I've been sitting talking to them about their problems with their wife, or their sons went on a fishing trip or whatever. You know, suddenly from being enemies, you are human, and there's a communication. You know? And then also I believe that from that point on, once that spark has been ignited, they cannot continue this violent way that they've gone. Something has broken, something has been dissolved. So I call them Jesus moments, not that I'm religious, but it's like a miracle that happens in these very tense situations. I just love them, absolutely. But please do not try to manipulate. You really need to. If you try to play with this and you're not totally steady inside, it can hit bad time. It can hit back bad times. I had the fever. I'm not really clear.
Ole, you are a brave man, and it's
an inspiration. I have to say.
Yeah, an inspiring soul. You spread this vibration of truth and of love, and it comes from the heart, and we can feel it. This is true stuff. This is really it's great, and you say you're open to communicate in any directions, and you're open to spread this vibe wherever life is bringing you. Now, how can people get in contact with you if people want to bring you into Germany, Austria, or Switzerland, and how can people connect with you?
I tell you, I would love to come wherever, anywhere I can make a difference. Count me in. Financially, I'm weak. Because I'm a one-man band. I don't belong to any organization, groups. I avoid all of these things because groups and organizations are the easiest thing to infiltrate. And as soon as a group have some kind of power, it will be infiltrated at this point. So my suggestion, networking is the key. Small groups or groups of friends, but networking with other, exchange of information and so on. But I am willing to do whatever it takes, and at any point or location, whatever is needed, front position, doesn't matter, I'm happy to do it. What I do ask for as an exchange is help me get there, support me in what I'm trying to do, help me support my family. So through donations or sign up for my newsletter, lightonconspiracies.com. I've written several books. Coup d'etat in slow motion is one. Part 1 and 2. It's the same book. It's just it would have been too thick because so I've made part 1, part 2. I've written one, Shadow of Tears, about this trip I went to Iran and how I smuggled these people out. I've written another small little book called Remind Me, Read-Mind Me, about how to change your mind and thinking so that you can function better in situations like this or normal day life. I also written a kid's book called Yolanda Yoga Panda, because I think it's really important that we reach kids on an early age and also give them the power to be able to, or the strength to say yes and no to things on an early age. So like I say, I would love to come to I've been to many countries, but not Austria. I've been to Berlin. But what I also try to do is to go on location as soon as one of these operations happen. Boom, get there and debunk it on location while they're still there. Military, armed, whatever, debunk it. The sooner the better, because that will help break the fear spell that is going on. So also by understanding how they work, I've been able to publicly predict several of these things, like the Copenhagen shooting. I went out on international radio 1 month before saying it's going to happen around this train station, it's going to happen around this time, and this will happen. Boom, it did not happen the day I said it happened, exactly 1 month later on the hour. Okay, so I'm also trying to make a series of documentaries where I bring an undercover photographer on all of these sites. I've been to 8 or 10 of these so-called terror where it's happened, on the mass shooting in Norway, the Copenhagen shooting. I've been to the Madrid bombings, the 7/7 bombings, the beheading in London, the Brussels attacks. I've been at Charlie Hebdo. I've been to the Bataclan, all of these places, but with an undercover photographer where I film myself. What I want to do is like a series of maybe 15 programs where I go globally and just take each incident, bump, slowly. Here's the official version, and here is the real evidence, and then put them side by side. I tell you, mind-blowing, the result. I have a pilot ready, and I've got it backed by Jim Morris and Jim Fetzer and other people, and I got the production company in the US that are trying now to find some way through this wall or transcend this wall, because we're up against the wall when it comes to mainstream media. But the way I see it, it's mainstream media or not. Just to put it out on YouTube or something like, no, it's through this black box that we can reach all of these people that would otherwise not see it. So it needs to go the same channel. So also any donations and so on, everything I get in is used in this way as well. And our house is called the Safe House. We help people here. We also have people from all over the world have flown in here, some heavy dudes, fantastic people who have been gathering in this house, talking and trying to find ways of lifting this world to a better place. So, what can I say? As an exchange, if you don't know what else to do, please support whoever researcher you respect. Most of us are very weak financially, and it's so frustrating because often it's just a matter of like a couple of €100 or something like that can make the difference from me being stuck here or being boom on location. For instance, in Berlin, I would have gone there straight away, been there while the whole thing was there, before they even cleaned it up, and just been an absolute pain in the butt forever, you know, and would be very happy to do it. And they would have been very confused, not being able to hate me or get angry at me even, because they would have helped me do it. You know, this is the beauty of it all. In Denmark, I came, we went to this book cafe where there had just been this alleged shooting, and there were still police with machine guns and all of these things, and they were waiting. They knew that we were coming because I made it public on Facebook, and so I'm coming this time, boom. We went there, not comfortable. I mean, it's not that I enjoy these situations. I think they're quite scary. But anyway, we went there, and this the police chief came over with his gun and everything, and started, who's responsible for this, who's in charge of all this. And within a few minutes of him trying to look aggressive and disliking me, within a few minutes he gave me his personal business card and said, here's my personal phone number. If you need any assistance or you need help with anything, give me a call. Do you see what I'm saying? Love is power. It is so powerful. Fear is the opposite. Don't buy it. Don't buy into it. Let it go. It's in your mind. It is in your mind. That's the only place you can be fearful, in your mind. If you look outside, if you close your eyes, maybe it looks scary if you look, but close your eyes, there's nothing to be scared of. It's in your mind. And also, just because somebody aims a gun at you, who knows, maybe it's made of rubber. Until the second that individual pulls the trigger and the bullet enters your head, that's a point where you should start getting worried. But until then, you're fine. You're fine.
You're unbelievable, man. That's so funny.
It is fear. It is true fear. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Let's play it well.
Love it, man. Ole, look, I don't know how much time you have, but you have spent over 2.5 hours with us. And, I mean, the stuff that you gave us is inspired me so much. I had many questions. Naturally, you answered all of them. And like Frank said before, I got goosebumps through this whole interview. And, wow, man, really powerful stuff, Ole. And I'm hoping that this is not the last time that we'll be speaking to each other.
Anytime. And also, you're the first German show I've been on, I think. I can't remember any other.
I'm an American. Frank's the German. So it's a funny contrast here when we do our show, because I have my typical, I guess you would say, American point of view, which is sometimes off the wall, but it works well. And naturally, we have two different types of mentalities where we grew up, and it works really well. And we're trying to do our best, and naturally, people that like yourself, big names in the scene, that take the time out to explain to us your research and stuff like that. That's something that is in German they say unbezahlbar. It's priceless. Yes, absolutely. I can't thank you enough for the time that you have spent with us, man.
It's my absolute pleasure, and listen, anytime, any case you want to go into in great detail, any so-called terror act, anything where I can help you or assist you, please, this head is full of this information, let it be used. You know, it is, for some reason, this body is customized for this thing, because you put me in the kitchen, I'm a disaster. You put me in other areas, I'm just a super loser. In this area, I don't know why, this mind and this body is perfect for it, so please use it.
Yeah, wow, that's really amazing words, Ole, and yeah, I'm honored for our show that we had you here, but also from man to man. I really want to tell you it's a great experience getting in touch with people like you, Yeah, this is and you said it. It's about networking, and that's exactly where we are dedicated at too, and bringing these things together and realizing that it doesn't really matter where you live and where you get into it. I mean, it's the small minority that is ruling over the people. And we are the people, and if we connect also beyond borders, and if we realize our power, our strength, our dignity as human beings, then indeed I also share this view that we can make life bring life back again to a good vibration. We can have a lot of fun here on Earth. It's a great place to be. Everything is perfect. We fit into here. And we shouldn't. We must not live in fear and terror and war and hunger and all these things. We are dedicated on the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, I salute you. And listen, I'll be most happy. You know, like people say, oh, it would be such a big thing to arrange for a conference or something like that. It doesn't need to be big, you know, like a mini tour or whatever, 3-4 days in three different towns or cities or whatever. Get me over there. I'll do everything I can. It's once again, it's just a matter of the money thing. Just put it together, you know, instead of getting a beer, get an Ole on location and let's do it. Everything we can do. This is the time. It's not a time to play with your belly button and order another slice of pizza. This is the time, the chance we have to lift this whole thing. So let's do it. I am not somebody who wants to wait until tomorrow. You know, let's move this ball. It's really moving. They're freaking out, I would say, because you can see the quality of operations. Oh my God, it's just going down the drain. It's so bad, the things they're putting off now. So they're freaking out, and this is also why you will see it being more and more and more and more, because they're trying to keep us confused and disillusioned by hitting us again and again and again and again. Just shows that they're getting desperate, and they need to speed up their act, and their plan is to get us in this cage and close the door before we'll find out. But we've seen them for a long time, so it's just a matter of I'm not going there. And let's help tell other people that, listen, that is a pretty stupid way to go, because it will be not a very nice future for you. So maybe if you stay with the rest of us out here in the sun, that is a better option.
Yeah, that's a great closing statement. Ole, thank you once again for your time, and I think that we will definitely be in touch, because we talked about is that you mentioned that you have a couple of cases that would take basically a couple of hours to explain, to get into detail. And if it works with your time, we would love to come back and take a rain check on one of those cases with you and have you in the show again, if that's okay with you.
1 show, 20 shows, up to you.
Okay, that's a bargain, Ole. From my side, sir, like I said, thanks so much. Frank, we're going to take this and set it up, and we're going to run it on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to it. Naturally, you'll be getting a copy of it. We'll send you the link. Frank, you have Ole's email address and everything like that, right? Wow.
Can I just mention before I leave that also that my sweetheart Kim Kamala Ekman, she's the mother of 3 and a concerned, beautiful woman who is not into these. She thinks this is way too dark, but at the same time she's worried about what is going on in the world. So last year we had the whole house filled here with Max Egan and Ian Crane and Sen Gardner, other people like that, absolutely fabulous people. And she was in the background just feeling like, but so what can I do? So what can I do? And she was going around with this idea or thought, what can I do? Which so many people ask. And so what she came up with was creating a book. It's called So What Can I Do? And in the book, she has written 14 different questions from a point of view of a person who is just about to, in the process of waking up, you know, where you're in this sort of like, oh my God, but can this really be real? And chemtrails, are they really? And GMOs, is it really possible? Do you know the banking system? Are you kidding me? These type of questions, 14. And then she has asked these 14 to 8 top researchers from around the globe and put together in this book called So What Can I Do? You can find it on Amazon or on my website, lightonconspiracies.com. It's also there in multiple languages, which quite a few of my books are as well. But in the book, Kevin Barrett, Max Egan, Sophia Smallstorm, Kerry Cassidy, Sam Gardner, myself, David Icke, who is it else? Oh, maybe that was all. So, and what is really interesting, I feel, is that all 8 have very, very different answers to the same question. But what goes through the whole thing is love. Everybody comes out with the intention of love. And hallelujah, baby, that's what I say.
Yeah.
And now, I think I'm going to go and lie down, because I think I've got a fever.
Oh, really? Well, geez, Ben, feel good and get better soon. And again, Ola, it was an honor for me, personally also, as Frank said, and thank you so much for your time.
My absolute pleasure. Take care, guys.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a good rest.
Bye-bye. Get strong. Yeah.
Thank you, always.